Hi, everyone. Fentress Driskell here, Democratic leader in the Florida House of Representatives. And thank you for tuning in for our weekly live streams. Can I just be honest with you that I look forward to this space every week? It means so much to me to be able to create this space with you and share this space where we're able to talk about the issues that are happening in Florida, talking about the issues that are impacting our daily lives, the policies, the politics, all of it. This started as an experiment back in March as we were responding to the governor's State of the State address, and we decided to keep it going. And it's really because of you. So I have to thank you, those of you who tune in every week, or maybe you're a first time viewer. I'll tell you the reason why we have this space. What we're doing here is that our theory of the case is that regardless of where we are in the state of Florida, no matter what our zip code is, no matter our county, whether we're down in the Florida Keys in Monroe or up in the Panhandle in Pensacola, the policies that get passed in the Florida legislature and signed into the law by the governor impact us all. Those policies don't care if we're Republican, Democrat, or independent. They impact us all. And if we can start to share our stories with one another and begin to understand the impact that these laws can have on us, then maybe, just maybe, we might realize that we have enough in common with each other and that maybe we should listen to each other and come together and think through about the changes that we want to see in Florida politics and in our policies, the positive changes that we want to see in our communities and in our lives. And I fundamentally believe that the only way we're going to accomplish that change is together. I also talk a lot about hope. I think since we had our last live stream, I've done another keynote address. I think that's 4 post-session where I've been able to talk to groups all across the state and tell them what's been on my mind and what's on my heart. And I'll tell you actually, because this is our space, so we get to talk about what we want to talk about. I will tell you that what's on my mind is that Florida is in play. Florida is in play. As I travel the state, as I talk to people out in the community, people, frankly, are tired of the culture wars. They have had it up to here with that. They feel like it's nonsense. They want to elect representatives and local officials who reflect their values. They want to elect people that they can hold accountable. They want to elect people who are going to focus on the affordability issues that we're having in the state, whether it's our property insurance rates that are too high, or the fact that it can be difficult to find access to affordable healthcare. And then once you get it, it's even harder to keep it because the costs are going up. They want representatives who are going to protect their freedoms. Okay. And we saw just last week that the Florida Supreme Court issued a ruling that basically paved the way for a 6-week abortion ban to go into effect in our state next month. The challenge with that is that it doesn't just impact people in Florida. It actually is going to impact people seeking abortion access all across the Southeast. And when I'm out in the community and I talk to the community about these issues, what I'm finding is that people want change. There's actually a lot of hope out there in Florida. And so that is why I say Florida is in play. It's because the people are paying attention. The people are coming together and having real conversations, sharing their stories about how these policies are impacting their lives, and realizing that we must do something about it. And so this space is the space where we come together and we share our stories and we talk about these issues. And this space is the space where we get to dream about how to take that hope that we feel, or sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's whatever emotion you might have or may be feeling or whatever you want it to be. But how do we take that energy and translate it into action that can actually lead to positive results in our state? That is our purpose. That is why we are here. And so it means a lot to me that you spend this time with me. Actually, last night I did a town hall at the University of South Florida, Go Bulls, and I got to speak with a lot of the college students there. And the conversation was so great. I just love young people. And when I talk to our young people, I always want them to feel informed, but also empowered to know that they can make a change. It doesn't matter that they're young. In fact, I think that it's wonderful and beautiful that they are young. And so they tend to see the world through a different lens and maybe are not always as jaded as sometimes we can become. And it was good to talk to them and try to understand what their generation is thinking about this upcoming election. And I was encouraged, even though they may not be paying as close attention to the national politics because that feels heavy and it feels overwhelming. They're not sure if they can make change there. They are paying attention to the local races, like the state legislative races, like school board races. A lot of these races that have elected officials who pass these policies that wind up being culture wars, whether it's book bans or how we can teach history, whether or not we can teach that accurately. And so I was encouraged to hear that they are paying attention to local issues. And I think that it's the local races, the down ballot races, that are going to be the reverse coattails. And maybe we can tell people, instead of voting down ballot, you have to vote up ballot. You have to vote up and down the ballot and make sure that we're coming out in force to support the change that we want to see. And then tonight, I actually just came from a town hall with the Hillsborough County Black Chamber of Commerce. It was the first such legislative wrap up that they've done. I want to congratulate them on a phenomenal event. They also are committed to bringing timely information to the community. And it was a beautiful and diverse crowd. There were state lawmakers there, county officials. You had business leaders, educators, people from all walks of life who came to learn about their state government and the policies that are impacting them. And the energy in the room was electric. I can promise you this, that the people want change, and they are prepared to do the work required to see that change, to make sure that we are out in the communities all throughout the state of Florida talking about this change and making sure that people cast their vote for representatives who share their values. It is essential that we do that this November, because if we stay with that, and we keep that hope and we have faith in that, I know we can bring about some positive change. So let me tell you about the live stream that we have for you tonight, because, it's a good one. I've been so excited to have this guest and to hear his story, and his mother will be with us sharing some of their family story. But let me kind of set it up so that you know what we're talking about. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but there are thousands of Floridians with disabilities who are stuck on a budget waiver waitlist. So join me as we talk with JJ and Alison Holmes about their story of waiting for the essential benefits that they need. And long story short, this is a program that provides services to support the activities, the daily living, personal care, and medical needs of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, or IDD. It's intended to improve the health and quality of life for individuals with developmental disabilities by providing services and supports that enable meaningful daily activities and prevent or delay the need for admission into an institutional setting, such as an intermediate care facility for the developmentally disabled. This budget waiver waitlist has over 21,000 Floridians waiting for services that they desperately need. 21,000. This is not a made up number. This is real. I think this number is abysmal. There was progress made on this issue in the legislature this year, and I was honored to support legislation to provide additional funding for Americans with disabilities, or Floridians who have these disabilities who've been on the wait list. But the progress that we made this year was long overdue, but it's still not nearly enough. We must continue to fight for much more funding to reduce the wait list, more funding for providers to ensure people can access services once they're off the wait list or enrolled in the waiver program. We need more oversight of providers, especially transportation, and careful monitoring of the new managed care pilot program. There's so much that we need to do to ensure that there is adequate funding. And so I want to talk to you all about this in the format that we love, which is hearing people's stories. And so tonight we're going to talk to JJ and Alison Holmes about their story, waiting for the essential benefits that they need. So JJ Holmes is a 20-year-old student at Seminole State College, where he is studying political science. JJ gets around in his power chair, which he drives with head controls, and he uses a communication app on his iPad that he types with his nose to access. Beyond his academic pursuits, JJ is best known for his tireless activism in advocating for disability rights, particularly in trying to secure home and community-based services for individuals like himself. Diagnosed at birth with cerebral palsy, JJ has been on the iBudget waiver waitlist for over 17 years. Do the math, folks. JJ is only 20 years old, meaning that he has been on this wait list since he was 3 years old. The state of Florida should be ashamed for not giving him his services sooner. And like we mentioned, the waiver would provide him with essential home services and community-based services, granting him the independence and support he deserves. Without it, JJ would be condemned to live in a state-run institution, separated from his family and his friends. So currently, Florida is 49th in the nation for funding this critical waiver program. Also do the math, there are only 50 states. That means we are literally scraping the very, very bottom of the barrel when it comes to caring for Floridians with disabilities. Driven by his personal experiences and a deep sense of justice, JJ dedicates himself to raising awareness about the plight of Floridians with disabilities. He campaigns tirelessly for policy changes and reforms to ensure that no individual is denied their right to live with dignity and autonomy. Alison Holmes is JJ's mother, and until he gets his services through the waiver, she is a 24-hour caregiver to her son. Let me tell you that I had the opportunity to meet JJ and Alison in Tallahassee when they came to advocate on behalf of Floridians with disabilities. And I was so impressed, and we've stayed in touch ever since. And I invited them to the live stream and they said yes. So please allow me to bring to the stage JJ and his mother, Alison.
Hi. Thank you for asking. And okay, there's a bit of typing going on. Thank you so much for bringing attention to this, because it's okay.
It's critical. And so, folks, what's happening is JJ typing a response. So we will give him the patience and the grace that he needs to type that response.
Meanwhile, as we say that 1 billion over 2 years has been spent on toll road rebates for frequent use, so which would have cleared the wait list and another wait list as well. So, I mean, it would have fully funded the waiver. Okay.
Hi, Leader Driskell. Thank you for having me on tonight. I'm honored.
Thank you, my friend. I'm honored to have you here. And just to pick up on a point that Alison was making, there are so many ways that we spend money in our budget. Like, you know, it's just a matter of what people decide are the priorities, because we have money in the budget, right? So we could allocate it to clearing the disability wait list, but for some reason there's been a refusal to do it. And I can remember there was a moment on the floor where we were talking about something that just was wasteful spending, Alison, and I had just met you and JJ like the day before, and I picked up my microphone for debate and I went off. And I told everybody in my debate, I told them about JJ and how wrong I thought this was, that we were, you know, pursuing this frivolous spending when we could do something so meaningful to help him get the services that he deserves. So, you know, we talked a little bit ahead of time about how we want to structure our conversation tonight. So let me just go ahead and get into that. This is a question for you, JJ, in your own words. What is the iBudget waiver?
Okay, I'll just give him 1 second to get across, and we should be. There we go. Almost there.
Okay, so years ago, people like me were heading away in overcrowded institutions, separated from our family and segregated from the rest of society. We were kind of looked at like less than human. I guess they figured our lives didn't matter. Eventually, the case got to the Supreme Court, and they said we should be treated equally, which meant we had the right to get the help we needed to live at home. The iBudget waiver will give me disability services so I can keep living in the community, because right now, my mom and dad are my only caregivers. The problem is, the waiver is optional, meaning every state can spend as much or as little as they want. Our state is 49th in the nation for spending on the waiver, so you have to go on a wait list for the iBudget waiver.
Yep. So,
Thank you for
and
that. And so, right. And so I think JJ hit on something very important, which is that it's up to the state. This is not something where the federal government is putting regulation in our way. There is no excuse here. The state could fund this initiative if it wanted to. Allison, did you have something you wanted to add?
And it would also get almost 60% of the funding from the federal government. So it would bring money into the state. It would give somebody like JJ a full life to live, not a, I've said this year I'll be 60, my husband's 67. He's living the life of a couple of 60-something-year-olds. That's how it is each day. And he doesn't want to go out with his mum every day. He wants to be a young person being active in things that I don't want to anymore. And so 60% of the money could come in. Maybe $500 million goes to the toll road users instead of a full $1 billion. And I mean, even horse racing over the last 2 years got more money than the money that they put in. And a senator said he wants horse racing to thrive. And I just, one day, I hope that they look at my child the way they do at that industry and say that they want him to thrive.
You're so right. I mean, every Floridian deserves the freedom to be healthy, prosperous, and safe. And that's regardless of where they live, their race, their ethnicity, their religion, who they love, and certainly their status with respect to a disability. So we kind of touched on this a little bit, but so that we can hear it from you, JJ, how long have you been on the wait list, and what would it require? What would it take for you to get off the wait list?
So as he's going in to do that, I mean, I can, for how long he's been on the wait list is 17 years and 2 months. So do you want to answer the next question whilst I'm saying that? He's been on it for 17 years, 2 months, and right now I think it's almost 40% of people on the wait list have been on it for over a decade. So his wait is not unusual. This isn't because we got him on the applied for the waiver really young or something like that. Plus, the people on the wait list aren't, well, we'll look at them when it comes up and see whether they're eligible or not. These are people who they have looked at, investigated, done all the paperwork and said, yes, you are eligible for the waiver. All that's holding it back now is that the governor has said, no, I want to spend it on this, this, and this, and not on people with disabilities. Are you almost there? So it's just, it's a matter of priorities.
Okay, this is crazy, but the only way right now I can get the waiver is if I'm in a crisis, and it's got to be real bad. Like, I'd literally have to be homeless, or both my parents have got to die.
And he's not kidding on this. That is how bad it is. That's like the 7 categories, and the category number 1 is the only time that you'll get the waiver, and it is a crisis. We've applied for crisis before, but it's rotator cuff injuries that never get a chance to heal. That doesn't even come close. My husband has neck surgery, knee surgery, he had carpal tunnel syndrome, he needs surgery. Again, it's
inhumane what they're doing.
Right. And again, this is Republicans in Tallahassee who have set these rules out for it's in other states you can go straight onto the waiver, in some states red and blue. And as you said about something else, that I mean it's the wait list has people, Republicans, Democrats, independents, every stripe going that are on that wait list, and you just sit there and sit there and sit there, and it's waiting for a crisis to strike for JJ, by which time it's too late.
And let's just talk about that, because the crisis, you know, I always learned when I was a kid, I would always hear an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And what that phrase simply means is that it's better to address things before they get to the point of crisis. And so it just seems to me that this is such a backwards policy that our state has. The other thing, and this is part of why I'm so glad that you agreed to come on the live stream tonight, is that a lot of Floridians don't know about the iBudget waiver waitlist. They don't know that this is actually happening unless they have someone in their close personal network who may happen to be an individual with disabilities. And so I think it's so important for us to spread awareness around this, so that we can create champions throughout the state who can talk to their lawmakers about these issues. Because, you know, and I don't know if our listeners know this, but it's actually your state lawmakers are quite accessible. For the most part, you can reach out to their legislative office, reach out to their legislative staff and request a meeting. You can send a letter, you can send an email, you can leave a voicemail message. Although I think that the in-person meetings are the most impactful. And so that's part of what we want to do tonight, is create champions for JJ and for all Floridians who are on this waiver wait list all across the state, and have people reach out to their lawmakers to advocate for more funding for this, because it is essential. And, you know, disabilities don't care if you are a Republican or a Democrat or an independent. And as you mentioned, Alison, there are people from all walks of life who are on this wait list. So JJ, we're going to go to the next question. So go ahead and start preparing, and I'll go ahead and read it to you now, which is that, what would it mean for you to receive the benefits that you've been waiting so long for, to receive the benefits that you've been waiting for 17 years? And what would those benefits look like for you?
I mean, he's very nervous. He's very excited, but he's very nervous, which
so I'm going to say it while he's preparing his answer. It's hard for me to imagine JJ being nervous or shy, because let me tell you folks, when JJ came into my office, first of all, he came in like a boss, like a baller. He totally owned the meeting. He is hilarious. He is hilarious. And I can't remember the plans we made, but I think JJ might be running for president someday. I mean, he's just a phenomenal young person who is making such a difference in this world. And I'm just honored to call him my friend. So, but we give you all the grace and the time that you need, JJ, to prepare your answers, because we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. And can I just say too, while he's also preparing, and I'll pause as soon as you start talking, JJ, there's a lot of love for you in the comments, my friend. Sarah Fortney says you're awesome. Representative Rita Harris is sending you hearts. Sandy's daughter is saying thanks for addressing these issues. You know, Lori is asking a question. Don't we have billions in reserves? Yes, Lori, we do have billions in reserves. So this is absolutely a question of priorities, and the reality that leadership in our state has deprioritized Floridians like JJ.
That was something. Craig Patrick from Fox 13 did a series on this, and he has pulled up clips of both Governor DeSantis and Governor Scott talking, bragging about all the billions that they have in reserves. And I think it was Rick Scott who went around the state trying to decide, what do we spend all this money on? We tried to get into one of these decision-making town halls or whatever it was, but we couldn't get in. So we had a few ideas about what you could spend the money on, and it is, yeah, it's devastating to see how just little thought it gets. Okay, it's ready.
It would mean I could start living my life. And it would mean my parents could live their lives back too. The waiver would send caregivers into my home to help my parents. It would cover any adaptations I need in my home. It would give me reliable transportation. Right now, I get 2 non-medical rides a month, but they never show up. It would mean I could go out to the movies at night, because right now I'm on my parents' schedule. The waiver would let me live my life.
Thank you for sharing that. And the next question is going to be, we want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your life story, and what was your life like growing up, and what's it like now that you are in college? And as you prepare to have that one play, I just want to say thank you, Alison, and thank you to your husband. And got to keep it together emotionally, because I can only imagine, how much this is on.
I'm sorry. It's so hard because so many marriages collapse under the strain, and I can so tell you why that happens. I mean, I really can. We've gone through some really tough times with this, and you're constantly, oh, it's your turn to do this. No, it's your turn. I was thinking about this before, and I can't remember the last time that we went out together, because somebody's always got to stay home to watch JJ. I mean, just even 4 hours from somebody coming in would make the world of difference to us. But it's this crisis until we get into the crisis, and as you said, by that time it's too late. I mean, a crisis is way too late for him. If he was homeless, he'd be dead. I mean, he couldn't survive. They couldn't get caregivers in to do the amount of care that he needs. But I mean, my husband is there's, apart from when he's been sick, there isn't a day that he hasn't showered him. I mean, he sleeps with us. He sleeps between us in bed, because I have to get up at night to turn him, to cover him because he's cold, or take the covers off because he's hot. I mean, he drools, so drinks because he's thirsty. So we pull him out of the bed to shower him. My husband takes him under his arms. I take him under his legs and carry him into the shower. My husband's built a seat in there, sits on it. But I mean, at 67 years old and trying to do this, my heart breaks to see him like that. But if he doesn't do it, then JJ doesn't survive for another day, or doesn't go out. Anyway, he's telling me he's got over your answer. So
I was diagnosed at birth with cerebral palsy, and I'm pretty severely disabled. I need help with everything. I can't walk, feed, bathe, or dress myself. But in my head, I'm like every other 20-year-old. As you can see, I am in a power chair, and I drive with my head controls. My iPad is everything to me. Obviously, I use it to communicate, but also I text, email, go on social media, and do my college assignments on it. My life was pretty normal growing up. I went to my local elementary, middle, and high school, and graduated last year. I'm now at Seminole State College studying political science.
That is so awesome, JJ. That is so awesome. And you just keep going And thank you to Alison for being so vulnerable and sharing what it's like. And I know as a parent, you do what you have to do. But I think that as a community, that means we need to do what we have to do, which is to stand up for families like yours and to make sure that you get the resources that you need. Because here's the reality, folks. There are federal dollars, and Alison mentioned this at the top of the live streaming in case you missed it, but there are federal dollars waiting, just waiting to be applied to this wait list if the state would just do its part. It's like a 60-40 match. So there's money for this. We have billions of dollars in reserves as a state for a rainy day. But the reality is that for JJ, it's a rainy day every day for JJ and his family. You hear he just wants the opportunity to live his life as normally as possible. And you can hear his brilliance and you can see his wit, and he deserves that. Every Floridian deserves that. So thank you. Let's talk a little bit too about your advocacy, JJ, because you are very active in the advocacy space. You know, I think it would be easy for you to just, worry about yourself, but I know you, and I know that's not your mindset. What drives you to participate as an advocate and an activist? And while he prepares that, Alison, thank you too for being such an advocate and an activist and coming to Tallahassee on your own dime, spending your own time trying to educate lawmakers like my colleagues and me to make sure that we really understand how this is impacting your day-to-day life.
Well, thank you for you to all the Democrats for being willing to listen. We have had meetings with Republicans. Jeb Bush was the last one who fully funded the waiver. There was a lawsuit coming right behind him, hot on his heels, but he did fully fund the waiver, fully fund the waiver. But I mean, that's over 20 years ago, and okay, he's.
In 2015, I watched a video of Donald Trump mocking someone with a disability for almost a year. I badgered my parents to take me to one of Trump's rallies to protest. 3 days before the 2016 election, Trump was holding a rally in Tampa. So finally, on November 5th, 2016, my parents relented and took me to the rally. When Trump walked out, I hid my communication device to play a chant. People around me started booing, and then Trump noticed me and told security to get him out. And the whole crowd chanted USA and kicked my wheelchair and my mom as we were being taken out. Reporters surrounded us, and because of the publicity, someone on the Clinton campaign heard about what happened to me. President Obama was speaking in Kissimmee the next day. I met him, and it was reported on CNN and the Washington Post and a bunch of other places. 2 days later, Trump won, so I decided I wanted to get involved in the effort to stop the ACA being repealed. All along, I've been pushing for the iBudget waiver to get funded, and over the last few years, that's all I'm focused on. It's really bad that we've been left to rot by so many Republican governors.
Thank you for sharing that story. It is inspirational to me, and I hope that our viewers will draw inspiration from it as well, because when JJ could have stayed silent, when he could have stayed in the comfort and safety of his own home, he spoke out and he confronted Donald Trump. And my hat off to you, JJ. And I'm so sorry for the violence and the mean-spiritedness and the hatred that you endured that day. I know that it has served to only make you stronger and to continue to propel your efforts as an advocate. But just to be clear, no child should ever have to go through that, because if my math is correct, and that's not my best subject, that would have meant that you were around 12 years old or so in 2016. So just a child wanting to be heard, trying to speak up for yourself and
Yes.
for your community. Yes. And so we thank you for your bravery. And we know that as Americans, we don't have to be afraid to disagree with each other. We don't have to be afraid to protest and speak out. In fact, freedom of speech is part of what has made our country great and part of what has kept protesters protected through challenging times like the civil rights movement, where we had to protest for rights for Black people in this country. And we won rights that helped and extended to other groups along the way. So thank you for fighting. Thank you for your courage. It is an inspiration to me. And thank you, Alison, for taking him to that rally.
Yes, I didn't think, I actually, before we went, he said, will Trump say, get him out? Will the crowd chant USA, and will I be on CNN? And I said, no, I said, I don't think anybody will even notice you. And if that's what you're doing it for, don't go. And he was adamant he wanted to go. So, I mean,
It took some pushing.
yes, for me, I knew we'd be told to leave. I didn't expect that. Shoving his wheelchair, kicking me. A reporter had it on video and spoke to the woman who kicked me, who denied it. But it was wild. I mean, really, just, you hadn't heard anything about his rallies for quite a while, but he really wanted to do it, and so against my better judgment, we did go.
See, and
And he was
JJ strong. He was 12 and he's reflecting back on it and saying that it was fun. And I know that I just imagine that the people who got to meet you, including President Obama, will remember the day that they met JJ Holmes. So thank you for standing up in that way. I think we should talk a little bit about what it's been like for you as a young person navigating healthcare. So let's talk about that. And while you prepare for that, you know, Alison, here we are 8 years removed from the first Trump election. We're about to have an opportunity in November to vote. Probably tell folks why you think it's important for them to vote.
I mean, I really feel that it's one of the most critical votes, and I thought that last time. This time, with how things are moving, I mean, even just taking it down in Florida with the 6-week abortion ban that's about to come in. So this means, whatever side you're on this means there's going to be more people applying for the waiver, because there disabilities, I mean, profound disabilities, where you just have no idea how to deal with it. I mean, it's for me with JJ, it was a challenge, but to be then, if you're forced to, give birth to a child that maybe is going to live 10 years or something, and this means the waiver then is probably going to get about 25% more people applying, and the money isn't there now for people. It's certainly not going to be put into it then. We're not going to have the investment in people. Again, it's frequent toll road users. That's who are viewed as worthy recipients of the billions. I mean, it's over 2 years, $1 billion. It blows my mind that so much money for no delegation meeting that we've been to, no committee meeting in Tallahassee. Nowhere have we seen anybody lobbying for discounts for toll roads. It's a gift that's there. I don't know where we would end up if he is re-elected. It's so cruel how he behaves to people with disabilities, how he behaves to immigrants, how he behaves to, and I'm an immigrant, and I feel that, am I welcome here? And I'm an American, but first of all, I wasn't. So he's got, so.
Yes, most everything is by phone. Even though I can handle things myself, it means my mom is to do everything for me.
It's everything with the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. You've got to phone up. They're saying Hope Navigators are the solution whilst you're on the wait list. I had to phone up for the Hope Navigator. The forms are not accessible. We went back and forth. Eventually, she said, go to the library to fill in.
I hate to interrupt you, but did you just say that when you go to the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, that the forms that must be filled out are not accessible?
No, the Hope Navigator, to apply for a Hope Navigator, now she after about 3 attempts, she got it to where he could fill it in. In the meantime, she said, go to the library, print it out, and I guess I would fill it in. So we booked a ride through his managed care, which is something else, underlying all this with the waiver. The rides, I mean, I don't know, out of the last 11 rides, one has shown up. And this is medical and non-medical. Non-medical don't show up. So we booked the ride to the library, just doesn't show up. Because, of course, it costs a lot. He needs a ramp, so it's cheaper to say. And they say, oh, sorry, we couldn't show up. Did you make your own way there? We'll give you $3.28 for gas if you did. So everything is a monumental challenge. But the APD, Agency for Persons with Disabilities, you feel should understand. But the only way to get a Hope Navigator is by phone. To fill in the forms, we still haven't got the solution. What she's suggesting now, because he said one of the things he needs is reliable transportation. She said, would a bus pass help? So we're going to see. We're going to say, okay, we'll see. He just needs reliable transportation, but that's the direction. Everything takes years. It's something that for a regular person could go out, get a bus, get an Uber or something like that. Even moving through Agency for Persons with Disabilities, snail's pace would be supersonic in agency, that APD.
Which is it's just wild to me. And I want to address some of what you said, but let's go ahead and cue JJ for the next question, which is, what do you wish your peers knew more about with respect to people with disabilities or even healthcare in general? And I just want to hit on something you said, Alison, which is that for folks who don't know, the managed care plans and certain healthcare plans will provide transportation for patients who need to get around. And if you missed it, Alison said that out of the last 11 rides that they booked, only one showed up. Only one. This is a problem. And these are the benefits that are supposed to be provided to JJ so that he can get around and live his life. I mean, this is a young man who is attending college. He's so incredibly bright. He has something to offer this world. And it's up to the state to do its part to make sure that he can go about his life. And the money's there. The money's there. It's just a question of what we want to prioritize. And so you mentioned too, Alison, that there's a possibility of a bus pass. I will tell you, I mean, you guys are over on kind of like towards the east of the state, central Florida, but in Tampa, where I'm at, man, public transportation is a problem. It is underfunded. There are folks and students who rely on this transportation, and they need it expanded so that there are more bus routes, so that the transportation is I don't want to say that it's untimely, but it's at the times that people need. That people have to walk so far between spaces. And it is just a real challenge, even with funding. We actually had a referendum in our county to provide more funding for transit. And then there was a conservative county commissioner who filed a lawsuit that basically challenged it. The money got held up in the state legislature for years. And this year we finally reached a deal to bring some of that money back home to Hillsborough County, but it's more so to fix roads, which is important, but that's not why the people voted for it. The people voted for that tax because they knew that traffic was ruining their lives and that people deserve the ability to get about and to travel to work and to travel to their healthcare appointments, et cetera. And so it's a real problem. So, while I'm glad they're offering the bus pass, I'm just a little nervous because I understand the state of transportation in Florida, and we have a long way to go. Is JJ ready? Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wish everyone understood what it's like to have a disability. I think everyone should try going around in a wheelchair for one day. Actually, I think every legislator in Tallahassee should try getting around the Capitol in a wheelchair for one day. That would be interesting.
That would be interesting, JJ. And I have a feeling that if we did that, people would be able to just begin to see the world through your eyes and to try to understand some of the challenges that you face. So I love that idea. And what is a question that you wish that we would have asked you that we didn't? By the way, you're getting love in the chat. People think that is a great idea. And so, yeah, and y'all who are out there, just go ahead and light up the chat with some love for JJ and his mom, Alison, because they are two of the most remarkable human beings that I've ever met. You're getting hearts, JJ. You're getting all the love. And I'm so grateful because I believe in giving people their flowers while you can. So
I would like to see legislators pressing the elevator button and then getting over in time, because Tallahassee is not designed for somebody like JJ. And one thing, because I know you'd said about contacting your legislator, which is really important. Another hidden gem that we really like is the delegation meetings, because you can speak about anything that you want. And I mean, there's a lot, not just in your county, but, well, we've gone to Miami, we've gone to Hillsborough, we've gone all over the state, but it is a sort of, I think, a hidden gem that is underused, and a lot of people talking about the fraud in the election that Governor DeSantis said didn't happen. That's what a lot of the time is taken up with, and I think that we should take some of that time back, and JJ and I are, and I encourage everybody else to show up to your delegation meetings, because all your legislators are there. So, okay, are you ready?
Question you didn't ask me, but the important question that you did ask me was to ask me to come on here and talk about this. We've been forgotten about by most people. Thank you for not forgetting. Leader Driskell, I appreciate you.
Me too.
My friends, I appreciate you. And I thank you for your time here tonight and sharing your story in such an authentic way, and for getting vulnerable, and just for talking about what life is like for you in such a real way. I know it was eye-opening. I can tell it was eye-opening because I can see the love in the chat. Just wanted to let you know a couple more of the comments. JJ, Angel says you are seen and loved and you're not alone. Peter sends you hearts. Sarah says you came to Polk County. She was there because you spoke out and she heard you and she remembers when you spoke out. And Esoteric Life says massive stroke survivor here, and JJ is an inspiration to all people who have disabilities. And I'm going to add to all people, period, because you're such an inspiration to me. Thank you, JJ and Alison, for coming on tonight. Yeah. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
JJ for president.
Once he gets through college.
Yeah, get your grades.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, folks, you can see why I find JJ so impressive and why I really wanted to share his story tonight, or have him share his story. And then having his mom, Alison, here was really, truly a bonus. They are phenomenal people, and they came to Tallahassee and spoke out about this waiver wait list, and we couldn't ask for better advocates. And what Alison was talking about, they changed the elevators in Tallahassee, I don't know, a couple years ago, so that you could be standing in one elevator bank and you could push the button of the elevator next to you, but it might require you to go around the corner to catch a different elevator because it's this whole efficiency system that they're on. And when there are lots of people in the hallways and it's crowded, it can be very difficult to make it to your elevator on time. That's what she was talking about. Imagine lawmakers like me in wheelchairs trying to make it to our committee hearings. I love that idea that JJ had, that we should all try to get around for a day in a wheelchair, because I think we would see the world with very different eyes. So thank you again so much, JJ and Alison. We will continue to fight for you. We will continue to fight for every Floridian's freedom to be healthy, prosperous, and safe. And that certainly includes our Floridians with disabilities. Folks, we don't like to end our live stream without talking about actions that you can take so that you continue to feel agency in your own life and so that you feel empowered to make the kind of change that we want to see. So here are some things that you can do. The first thing is that you can take a look at who your lawmakers are, and you can go to the Florida website to do that, the Florida House website. It's myfloridahouse.gov, and you can find your representative. Click on that link and you type in your address, and it shows you all of your representatives from U.S. Senate all the way down to the Florida House, so that you can know who is representing your community in the legislature, and you can reach out to them. It's not too soon. I know we have an election coming up, but it's not too soon to go ahead and start reaching out to your lawmakers and let them know how you feel about this, so that when we head into next legislative session, they're already prepared. So it's important to hear from you in the community what your priorities are, because sometimes your voices do actually shape what takes place in Tallahassee. I won't sit up here and lie to you and say that it impacts it always, because I've seen this legislature get more extreme and stop listening to people. But this is why we have to make sure that our stories are told and that our voices are amplified, so that we can see the change that we want to see. So you can reach out to your lawmakers. The second thing that you can do, because we are headed into an election, we have to be prepared to vote. Make sure, please, only take a couple minutes to check with your supervisor of elections to make sure that your voter registration status is current, that they have a current address for you, that they have a current signature on file, and that your vote by mail ballot has been requested. Everyone was kicked off of the vote by mail rolls because of a really bad law that the governor signed last year. Usually people would expect those vote by mail ballots to just come election after election after they'd requested it one time. And now that's no longer the case. You're going to have to request it every 2 years. So I just want you to be prepared. And I don't want you to be waiting on a ballot that never comes. So please just take 2 minutes. I promise you, it won't take you that long to verify and update your voter registration status. A third thing that you can do, and we talk about this a lot on our live streams too, we have to harness the power of small. What do I mean by that? Sometimes the problems in this world seem so big, they seem so outsized. It can feel like, how could I do anything to impact this big issue? But I know that the way to change the world is through committed small groups of people who are willing to use what resources and time that they have to change the world. That means we have to reach into our own networks. We have to talk to our families, our friends, our neighbors, our classmates, and make sure that they are registered to vote and that they are educated and informed to vote for people who represent our values. And that is up ballot and that is down ballot, because our very lives depend on it. JJ's life actually does depend on it, whether or not we're able to shift the balance of seats in Tallahassee so that we can get this wait list taken care of once and for all. Let me tell you what this would mean, all right? We have 120 representatives in the House. Only 36 of them are Democrats, 84 are Republicans. So if it was a scale balance, like it's really like this, right? Like way out of balance. If we could elect more and more Democrats year over year, then we start to bring the balance back. And as we advocate for folks like JJ, we're able to impact that vote in a better way. We need to try to get it, do everything we can to get it as close to 50-50 as possible this election cycle in order to have that help us and be able to help JJ. And sometimes I think about it like this. You can almost think about voting like American Idol, right? So you have different contestants who are on stage. And part of the way that they win is that America has to call in for the contestant that they want to win. This is what voting is like. You can think of this as like tug of war. Imagine if all the kids from your neighborhood stayed home and didn't show up for the match of tug of war. Then the kids from the other neighborhood are going to win, right? We have to show up and vote in order to win. You have to play to win. And so this is why it's so important for us to vote, because if we could just move those numbers even a little bit, if we can even get over 40 Democrats in the House, get closer to 50 Democrats in the House, now we're talking about real opportunities to have real negotiations to make change and to do things like eliminating this waiver waitlist. I want to remind you too about an event that's coming up in Orlando. We talked about this last week, but on April 13th, that's this Saturday, there is going to be a large statewide rally kicking off the campaign for Yes on 4. And remember that Amendment 4 is now going to be on the ballot. This is the ballot initiative that would protect access to safe and legal abortion in the state of Florida. Without passing this amendment, without passing this in November, without over 60% of Floridians voting for it, what would happen is that there's a 6-week ban that would be allowed to stay in effect. And we know that that's effectively an outright ban because most people don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks. So, please come out to Orlando if you're in the Central Florida area on April 13th. I believe that the rally starts at noon. So you can go to the Floridians Protecting Freedom website for more information, but we certainly wanted to uplift that as an opportunity for you to go out and make your voices heard and find out how you can get more involved in that campaign so that we are prepared this November to protect our reproductive freedoms. And then, as always, please connect with us. It matters to me that you stay in touch with us. Please follow us on social media so that you can get updates every time we go live so you won't miss this content. If you like this content, if you enjoyed JJ's story nearly as much as I did, please share this content with a friend. We want people to be informed and educated so then they also feel empowered. So sharing this content helps to amplify our message and is helping to start this movement that we're trying to start in the state of Florida to make sure that people feel hope as we head into the next election cycle. Because friends, let me tell you once again, I will end this live stream as I started it. Florida is in play. The energy here is very different than I have ever felt it before in my time in politics. And I've been in elected office for 6 years. And I am so proud of the energy that I'm feeling across the state. And I know that people want to see a better and brighter future for all Floridians, but that definitely means that we have to get out and vote. So thank you so much for spending your time with us this evening. I really appreciate it. As always, reach out to us if you want to share your story. We love to hear your stories. We want to uplift them and amplify them. You can go to finterestforflorida.com/share your story so that we can hear from you and definitely talk about that on the live stream. So thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you here next time. Take care.